Who is Duane? Well, he's the new global exclusive unit that we have found out we'll be getting on Wednesday, which is pretty cool. So in this video, I'm going to go over all the information we have so far and kind of speculate on what kind of unit he's going to be and, whether or not he might be worth your time. Now, of course, I'm going to do a proper should you pull once I get all his stats, all of his abilities, passives, etc. But for now, this is all we got. So let's get into it. Again, who is Duane? Well, we know some things about him. Someone thought that Duane would be a good name for a Dark Knight. It's kind of like a Sunday cartoon, like Duane the Dark Knight. You got your alliteration, so that was great. We've also been told that he's an attacker, but that he also has tanking capabilities, and we'll discuss that more in this video. He's 100 cost, he's limited, which is brutal, but he will get shards from login bonuses, he'll get shards from the bingo bonus, and they said in the video that was just, two of like a plethora of ways to get his shards, so maybe we'll be surprised and there'll be even more ways to get shards without Visior, which I certainly hope so, because otherwise it's going to be really hard for most people to raise him because you have to pull him first and his rates will be lower if he is a 100 cost unit. And then otherwise he has a limited VC that's going to boost his dark attack, but it's also going to be boosting some slash attack, magic resistance, and attack up, and just looks like a really good card, especially if you don't have Fenrir. So we're going to start by talking about what he might have, because we don't have all the information, but we do know that he's going to have the new Dark Knight of Remorse main job, as well as Subjob Viking and Subjob Dragoon, so we actually have a pretty good idea of what those jobs will give him. However, it's not going to be tanking capabilities, not just yet. So the Viking passives that people generally get are Viking Lore, which does increase your HP, and then Unyielding Protection, which gives you a bit of missile resistance, which is definitely appealing, especially if Duane has natural missile resistance. Then he could actually be a missile tank, and that would be kind of interesting. For Dragoon, you're going to get Jump +1, which is actually, again, it's kind of interesting for a tank, because then you can actually, scale the different areas of a map and kind of get in front and do your job and start tanking. And HP up again, if Duane has high HP, which they said that he does have high HP, then increased HP up is actually going to be a really big skill for him, because he'll have a high base HP, and that will increase it. But it's just not the typical things we see from these tank classes where they get a lot of defense generation. So he is going to get a support ability called Swift Shadow. We have seen that, and this is really interesting. Move +1, kind of like Mont gets a move +1 as a tank, and then raises hate. And this is like just innate hate. When he goes into the battle, he's going to have it on. It's going to be like Vow of Love. So it's a little bit different than Rain and Wall, who have to generate it using a skill. It's going to affect the enemy's units from the get-go, even if they move before Duane does. So that's actually super valuable, and it saves you a turn of casting a buff. So then he can cast other things. He could cast a TMR ability, whatever it is. So I definitely like that it's on a passive. It's just really interesting, because if you put that on as a passive, you haven't gained anything towards tanking besides the hate. You haven't gained any defense, any HP, or anything like that. Now in the video they hinted a way to raise defense, so I expect a second passive will be based around that for him. Now for counters, he's going to get Fighting Spirit from Viking, which will heal yourself, so that's kind of a tanky ability. And then the Dragoon one, Dragon's Blade, same thing, it's going to heal you. So maybe instead of, he'll take lots of damage, he has lots of HP, but then he can heal it back with these various skills. His LB is also going to heal himself. So then maybe we'll get a damage reduction from his Dark Knight of Remorse. Maybe we'll get a self buff like Wall that's going to increase your defense. I seriously doubt he'll get another absorb counter. Now we'll take a look through the main skills that they did share with us. So first off, we have Magic Infuse, which will remove re-raise from a target and then deal large damage and reduce their AP. This skill is insane. It's a really important skill to talk about, because we're eventually going to get the Yuna meta from the Final Fantasy X collab, and she is a light unit, so she'll be weak to Duane, and she can cast re-raise on people. We also have the Runeblade Halloween Ryu, who has re-raise as well. So this is going to be very, very important later on, but also just a large damage attack that reduces AP. That is also very important. And that could be pretty cool in like live PvP where you snipe someone's AP away from them before they use an important skill. Then he has Darkness, which usually deals damage to yourself, but I assume it doesn't now because they want him to be a tank. It deals medium damage, and it's gonna have a chance of inflicting disable, and it says target, so it's AoE. That's a really big deal to be able to put disable on multiple people. That could really lead to some heartbreak in PvP for sure. Then we have Rising Twilight, which lowers dark resistance for 3 turns and then small damage. This is a really big raid skill. Like, this alone will make him worth pulling in some context, in that, you know, you can use him in a raid with all your other dark units, and then he can imperil the boss, and then everybody can deal more damage, and he'll deal more damage, and that will just be great. Atonement is a buff that will give everybody slash attack up, and then it will give him defense piercing. So there we have it. There's your important ability that all new units need, which is defense piercing for DPS. But then to boost everybody else's slash attack, that's really, really good. So he's a debuffer, he's a buffer, he's a tank, he's a damage dealer. I mean, what can't he do? And then he has an LB that's 2-hit, which is nice, and it absorbs HP. So if you could time this correctly in PvP, then, you know, he could tank and then heal himself with his LB, and I guess that's kind of neat. Sounds hard to do. So he also has some sub skills that were alluded to, and then obviously I think, you know, there's got to be some tanking sub skills on the Dark Knight of Remorse, and that's why you'd put him in that sub, because again, Dragoon and the Viking sub job aren't going to give you tanking skills. So they haven't told us what the defensive skills are, but they have told us that he gets Sword Eater and Spell Eater, which both do medium damage and reduce attack or reduce magic for 3 turns. So more debuffs. Very, very cool. I like that kind of role that he's playing. He's in so many different areas. He can do so many different things. He can be useful in different types of content. Definitely a very interesting character. So I pulled some skills off of Kane and Stern so we could see what these sub kits kind of look like on different units and what you get when they're not your main job. So for Viking, you do get a defense buff there, an attack buff, so that is good for a tank. And then otherwise you get some slashing skills, and I think that all his main job stuff is better than this. You know, launch might be good for range, we'll see. But otherwise, Dragoon, you get a different attack type and you get a bunch of different jumps, and that can be really, really useful. So this could have been huge for the last raid. Obviously, he could imperil Darkness and then just start jumping on the 2-headed dragon. So obviously that's pretty neat and good to have on the sub skills. Okay, so is he worth your time so far? Like, based on what the information that we have right now. Well, pros, he's a damage dealer with tanking capabilities. You know, maybe I want to see the rest of his stats. I want to see the rest of his skills. Passive hate is a very strong skill. So he has multiple attack types, slash and pierce. He has debuffs for enemies. He can dark imperil. He can do attack down, magic down, and then he can also buff your allies with more slash attack. So the cons, well, he's 100 cost, he's limited. Our last 100 cost unit was also a Dark Slasher, Super Stern, so if you got Super Stern, you've already kind of filled that role. I don't know, like, as cool as he looks, and I love Dark Knights, I love this guy's kit so far. Like, it looks really, really cool. I still can't recommend it because 100 cost limited unit, I mean, that's just insane. What I will say, and what I will maybe do myself, is, you know, you could do like 1 or 2 pulls, and, you know, if you get lucky, yeah, you could build them, and, you know, maybe with all the free shards, we'll reevaluate on Wednesday, you might be able to build them up to LB4 or 5 and have a really cool unit. But you definitely can't chase this guy if he really is the same 100 cost unit as everybody else. That means his rates will be lower, so you should not be spending 10k, 20k, 30k Visior trying to chase this guy, because the chances are just really low, and I really can't recommend that. So right now, yeah, Duane, maybe a tank. And, you know, we'll find out more on Wednesday. I'll do a full should you pull for him. We'll look at all his kit, his stats, and all of that stuff. But for now, you know, it's probably a skip for most people.